It is time 1:07. Conduct public hearing and take all appropriate actions on following matters. Item 5A, modification to the Fort Bend County Major Thoroughfare Plan, specifically the Grand Parkway and Fort Bend Parkway Precinct 1.
My name is Roger Adamson, and I'm the CEO of the George Foundation. I'm here to educate those in attendance today as to the negative consequences to the citizens of Fort Bend County resulting from the Commissioner's actions on October 12th relating to Segment C of the Grand Parkway extension within Fort Bend County. At the court's October 12th meeting, the five of you voted to begin to reverse a quarter century of planning, evaluation, and approval that involved over a dozen local, state, and federal agencies such as TxDOT, the Army Corps of Engineers, and environmental groups, and other agencies on the optimal way to extend the Grand Parkway in Fort Bend County. This wide-ranging group of experts, rather remarkably in this day and age, reached a consensus on the alignment of Segment C. But with no prior announcement and in the absence of any real public discourse, on October 12th, the Commissioners inexplicably changed that. In fact, the video of your October meeting shows this court seemingly ignored 25 years of extensive planning in less than 25 seconds. In doing so, the Commissioners have thrown away and wasted a tremendous investment of taxpayer resources and a wide range of expertise that was brought to bear in deciding the best alignment of Segment C. This court also failed to respond to or acknowledge an offer from the George Foundation to donate 14 miles of right-of-way consistent with the record of decision. The relocation of the alignment contemplated by the October 12th agreement will have no impact on state or federal funding, at least ethically should not. However, that agreement will now result in a taxpayer expense of what we estimate to be more than $100 million for the right-of-way acquisition and, for reasons unknown, waive the county's immunity from suit by the developer if the county fails to perform. Further, the Commissioner's decision on October 12th also contradicts its own study performed earlier this year and the action that this court took in 2020 when you affirmed the record of decision for the Grand Parkway. Further, deviating from the original Segment C alignment will delay the timeline for the construction of Segment C, which will substantially delay its benefits to the citizens of Fort Bend County as well as Brazoria and Galveston counties. In sum, the Commissioner's decision on October 12th was detrimental to the county, its taxpayers, and its nonprofit sector. The court's decision to transfer value from the foundation to a private developer will no doubt have a negative impact on the foundation's future grant-making capacity, which will in turn be detrimental to the citizens of Fort Bend. Finally, because the decision was made without public debate or explanation as to the reason for this change, it appears to be the antithesis of good and transparent governance.
Thank you for being here. Next.
My name is Bill Jameson. I'm a former trustee of the George Foundation and currently a consultant to the foundation on its real estate matters. I've been involved in the transportation issues and development of transportation in the county for at least the last 40 years. And I led the Toll Road Authority from its inception for the past 20 years until I resigned a few years ago. I'm here today to talk about the Commissioner's decision on October 12th as to Segment C of that parkway. On February 4th, 2020, less than 2 years ago, the Commissioners Court corrected the County Major Thoroughfare Plan to accurately reflect the record of decision that had been established for Segment C. There was no discussion at that time, and the change was passed unanimously by this court. At that time, it was the prudent thing to do, it was the right thing to do, and nothing has changed that to negate or change that decision. The George Foundation has made an incredible offer of over 500 acres of right-of-way to your Toll Road Authority in conformance with that revised Major Thoroughfare Plan and widely accepted record of decision for Segment C. That offer, which would greatly accelerate the development of Segment C on the Fort Bend Parkway and provide significant savings to the county, because the value of that proposed contribution is so significant to forego this benefit deserves an explanation from this court. Based on my experience over the last 40 years, there are two things which you have no control over when developing a new transportation facility. One's environmental clearance, and the other one is right-of-way. In this case, you have chosen to ignore the gift of the right-of-way and environmental clearance, which has been approved for the past 10 to 11 years. That decision could greatly affect the cost of Segment C and certainly will affect the timing of that facility to be built. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Nettles, head of the Environmental and Natural Resources Practice Group at the Vinson & Elkins Law Firm. By way of background, way back in the 1980s, I wrote the Texas Transportation Corporation Act. I created the Grand Parkway Association. I helped supervise and oversee the initial environmental study for the entire Grand Parkway project. I persuaded EPA through meetings with Buckwood and meetings in Washington that the environmental impacts of the Grand Parkway should be studied on a segment-by-segment basis. I then supervised the preparation of the environmental assessment for Grand Parkway Segment D and got the Corps of Engineers permits authorizing the construction of Segment D. Why am I telling you this? I know exactly what I am about to tell you now. Unfortunately, the George Foundation is mistaken as to the law and as to the facts. 3 points. One, there is nothing in the record of decision or environmental impact statement that prevents this Commissioner's Court from identifying a preferred intersection of the Fort Bend Parkway Toll Road with Grand Parkway Segment C. 2, your decision to further study the environmental impacts at the preferred location will not delay either project, but will move them forward at a faster pace. Number 3, the interchange cannot be constructed at the location proposed or demanded by the George Foundation. Why is this? First, on point number 1, both the record of decision says in more than 24 places, the EIS says in more than 36 places, that the alignment of the freeway will be adjusted during the final design process to minimize impacts to the environment, including changes in intersections, in access, ingress, and egress points, and also to reduce impacts on wetlands and floodplains. The Fort Bend Parkway Toll Road is not mentioned anywhere in either document. The interchange of Segment C with the toll road is not mentioned anywhere in either document. There is an exhibit that was attached to the EIS that showed a possible interchange of the Fort Bend Parkway Toll Road with Segment C in a location on the George Ranch property. That does not in any way require that interchange to be in that location. Secondly, your decision to study the best location of the interchange will generate additional environmental data that is more current than the data that was in the 2012 EIS and in the 2013 record of decision.
I'd like to hear the rest of his explanation.
That exhibit does not lock in the toll road into that particular location. Third, the location requested by the George Foundation is directly on top of Dutch John Creek. The interchange cannot be built in that location. Remember, I got the Corps of Engineers permits for Grand Parkway Segment D. The Corps of Engineers regulations specify that a permit for the destruction of wetlands cannot be issued if there is a reasonable alternative that does not destroy wetlands. You have a reasonable alternative by moving 2,500 feet of right-of-way away from Dutch John Creek, and you can build the interchange in an upland area. So what they've asked you to do is not throw out 25 years of environmental planning, but to commit to an interchange that cannot be constructed in the location in which they proposed that it would be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Danny Signorelli, founder and CEO of the Signorelli Company, and I'm here to support the modification of the major thoroughfare plan. I'd like to start with the fact that we closed on the property that will make up this 4,700-acre community at the very end of 2019. About 60 days later, with no notice, no opportunity for public comment, such as is afforded today to the George Foundation. The George Foundation's consultant and former board member worked to modify the major thoroughfare plan without any comment. And what that did was it shifted the intersection from the property that we made a business decision to invest off of our property. Now, from that point forward, we worked diligently. I noticed that Roger came up and said that there were no comments in 25 seconds. He failed to discuss that our project's been held up for 2 years while we're trying to solve for this intersection, because the purpose of the Signorelli Company acquiring this land was that intersection. If you check our website, I know that y'all have hired a lobbyist to market your campaign with a lot of false accusations and inaccuracies. You'll notice that we're one of the largest private developers in the state of Texas. We have expertise in all 7 asset classes that you'd find in a master plan community. So we worked diligently. In fact, something that Roger also failed to acknowledge was that we collectively all gave presentations to the Fort Bend Toll Road Authority to explain what the best scenarios were. Now, us on one side, being a good neighbor and excited to be developing in Fort Bend to bring all these jobs and tax base and to create a catalyst to support the bonds needed to develop a $1 billion toll road, offered what is best for Fort Bend County, as a matter of fact, which is 4 intersections with developable land, not an intersection in the middle of a creek. But we also offered a compromise at the time to expedite the process, and that was a compromise to split the road 2 ways. They get 2 and we get 2. Now, this was in discussion with support of a number of the court here today, and in my discussions with Mr. Adams, he said, you know what, we like our cards, we're just going to stand with what we got, as in, we're going to take our toys and go home. Now, in their offer, and I've got a copy, I know y'all got the media here, so we can share all of that. In their offer, they supported that they would donate their land at 50% of the value. And interesting enough, they valued their land at $25,000 an acre, meaning $40 million, and they were going to sell it for half, $20 million, and let that interest accrue until someday when they got paid. That's generous. That's not as generous as us offering our land for free. But today they're making accusations that this is $100 million worth of real estate. I'm not sure. I'm sorry?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Conclude. Please continue.
Okay.
And please
I don't know what happened on the farmland that jumped it from $40,000 an acre to $185,000 an acre, when today farmland around here is trading for more like $10,000 or $12,000 an acre, which means this right-of-way thing is maybe a $20 million deal, not $100 million. Come on, guys. So what we'd like to do is move forward with our project. We appreciate the support from the court, which is creating a catalyst for and activating a very green area. And what we prefer to be is friends and partners with the George Foundation, as I understand that their mission statement is to use their resources to partner with the community to make this place better, and that's what the Signorelli Company is here to do. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Judge and Commissioner Steve Robinson, I'm here to speak in favor of the Major Thoroughfare Plan adjustment. As y'all are aware, this began more than 2 years ago. We have had countless meetings with staff. We have made presentations to the Fort Bend Toll Road Authority. And that all concluded in October with an agreement in which Signorelli Company agreed to convey all of its right-of-way necessary at no cost to the county, in which we agreed to pay the cost of the reevaluation. That reevaluation, as Mr. Nettles pointed out, was contemplated by the record of decision and required by that there would be a final design, and we are now going to do that so we can move forward with this project. I hate to correct my friend Danny Signorelli, but actually the George Foundation September 20th 2020 report said that the land was worth $20 million. Now they're saying it's worth $100 million. I'm not sure how you got a 500% increase in about a year. They will need to explain that. But all we are asking for you to do is implement the terms of the agreement that were negotiated and approved in October, and that included changing the major thoroughfare back to the location where it was when Mr. Signorelli purchased the property. Thank you so much.